Dave from HeyUGuys.co.uk, where today we're going to get an exclusive look around Pixar Studios. We'll get to see a bit more about Toy Story 3, what we can expect coming up over the next summer, and I hope you enjoy it. Check this out.
I still remember the day that John called me into his office and told me he wanted me to direct Toy Story 3.
It's like handing him the keys to the car.
It was very much like that, and of course I worried about scratching his beautiful sports car. But the reality is I made those movies alongside John. I've been there since the first Toy Story. We've been in the trenches a number of times on a number of movies, so we know what we bring to the table, and we've been there together. That being said, it's still a weird thing to kind of take the reins from somebody else who was the visionary of the earlier films. But the fact that John wanted me to do it, gave me a lot of confidence that he felt that I knew the aesthetic, I knew this world, I knew these characters really, really well. They were in my DNA as much as his. So I think that told me that he trusted me.
As a follow-up, how did you guys handpick your team to work on the film with you? Your supervising animators, the different people that you guys selected to work on the project.
Well, I'll say number one for me is passion. They had to be passionate for the film. But
yeah, absolutely. But luckily, it's interesting. When I first started talking to people to potentially be on the crew, I didn't know how people at the studio were going to feel about us making another Toy Story.
Yeah.
I expected some people to be into it, and I expected a lot of people to feel like, oh, really? Really? Do we need to make another Toy Story? We could be telling these new stories. That's what I expected. The reality was that literally out of everybody that I spoke to, there was only one person that had any reservations at all, and he's kind of a curmudgeonly guy anyway. But everybody else, without fail, wanted to be a part of making this film. And for a number of different reasons. Some of them were people that were with us when we made the first Toy Story, and for many people it was the start of their career, right? So there was the nostalgia factor for them because they had been part of making that, and they wanted the comfort of returning to these characters and doing them justice. It's like you send your kids out into the world, and then you don't want somebody else raising them. If you can have any control over how their lives are going to go, you want to be a part of it. So I think a lot of people felt that way. And then we also have a lot of young people at the studio who grew up on our movies. One of my top story guys, Adrian Malina, was 10 years old when Toy Story came out, and now he's getting to...
Makes you feel old.
But he's getting to be a part of this film, and there are a lot of people at the studio like that were inspired to become filmmakers themselves by our films, and so it's an honor for them to be a part of them, especially Toy Story, because that's the heritage of the studio. So everyone was very excited about it, and in terms of who we picked, it really became a game of, luckily, a lot of people wanted to be a part of it, so we tried to put together a team that was going to be fun to work with for 4 years.
Fun to work with.
What were your favorite toys as a child?
I had two favorite toys. One was my $6 Million Man doll. I was rabidly into the $6 Million Man as a TV show.
And
in fact, my $6 Million Man doll inspired Zurg. Zurg's, just had the hole in the back of his head, and the camera kind of goes behind, and he has so that's totally $6 Million Man. And I don't know if any of you noticed, but at the end of the movie, when they're at the dump, and all the metal things start going up to the ceiling, Buzz grabs onto an old lunchbox that takes him up, and that lunchbox is my $6 Million Man lunchbox. That was my favorite lunchbox when I was a little kid. And then my other favorite toy, I had this toy called Hugo, Man of a Thousand Faces, and it was this puppet. It was this creepy looking puppet with these soulless eyes, and he had all these little facial pieces you could glue onto him to put him in disguises. Those were my two favorite toys.
And who's your favorite of Bonnie's plush toys?
Ooh, yeah.
You like the peas?
I love the peas. I love them all, though. Peas in the Pod are awesome. But Trixie's amazing. She's hard to beat. So they're neck and neck. Peas and Trixie.
You guys ended the film perfectly for a trilogy, and you're now in that elite club of a brilliant trilogy that, in my opinion, and I think everybody here would probably agree. Could there ever be a fourth film? Like if you went to everyone else and said again, can you do a fourth movie?
Well, we don't run the studio, so who knows what will happen in the future. But I will say that in setting out to make this, we very much did try to tell a complete story, not only across the three Toy Stories, but within this film. We tried to make a film that even if it's hard for Pixar fans to imagine a life where you haven't seen Toy Story or Toy Story 2, but there are a lot of people who have never seen them. And so we wanted to make a film that would stand alone, that you could watch and completely get and understand without having seen the other two movies. So, I don't know, I hate movies that end like clearly setting up a sequel. I don't find that satisfying as an ending. So, again, we very much tried to complete this story, and if we've done our job well, we've hopefully told a story that, like, I mean, this is ultimately Woody's story. I mean, these films are about Woody at the end of the day. And I think across these three now, we've wrapped up Woody's story.
I shed a tear, like it was a journey that I'd gone through, and I was ending it with Andy, and a whole new chapter was beginning with Bonnie as well. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an interesting thing on this film that we honestly weren't expecting. Now it makes perfect sense, but we weren't expecting it when we started. When we made this decision to have Andy grown up at the beginning of this film, we really weren't thinking about the fact that a lot of our audience, the kids who were little when Toy Story was made, are now they're now late teens into 20s, and some of them are starting to have families of their own. The kind of the older kids, and we're finding this huge wave of nostalgia. A lot of people in that demographic are very excited about the movie coming out because they grew up on those, or even the kids. I just saw something on Twitter today that a lot of people talking about how excited they are that this film's coming out right after they graduate from high school, because in their mind it's almost like Andy growing up has mirrored their own growing up.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool thing, but it's not anything that we consciously set out to do.
Not at all. And Andy's age is about what his age would be, from a true chronological point of view. So.
The scene at the dump where they're heading for the fire, which was, by the way, I think, best piece of animation I've ever seen. You just look at their eyes, and their faces tell all the emotions that's going through their head. I thought it was kind of shocking in a way. Are they really doing this? But you had me worried. Really worried
That's
about
good.
the well-being of the characters.
Yeah.
But it's so intense, that scene. Were there at any moment doubts about doing it?
Yeah, I mean, there have been moments where we've, at the end of the day, we know we're making a film that we want everybody to enjoy. We want adults to enjoy it, and we want kids to enjoy it. So you don't want to, you never want to go to feel like you've gone too far, right, with how intense anything is. But at the same time, I want to be true to, I wanted those toys to be at their end game, realistically. I wanted to feel like they really had no hope and that this was going to be the end. And I thought it was an important place for them to be pushed. And, it does get intense there, but in that moment it allows them to, without words, illustrate how close they are as a family. And, at the end of the day, you're looking at a bunch of toys on screen, but these are characters, these are people. I don't even think of them as cartoon characters or toys. I know each of those people as if they are actually really people. And we tried to be true to that. We tried to be true to kind of have, how those characters would act in that situation. And, I wanted there to be a dignity to them all holding hands together and being together as a group, just facing the horror that they were facing.
I mean, I've with all of our films, there's some moments in all of them I've been like, wow, are we going to do that? And at the end of the day, for my own self-analysis, I always agree with the director and our storytelling to have the courage to tell the story to its full glory, and not flinch in the face of that.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, kids see far worse. Kids see a lot of bad things these days. It's not a good thing, but we live in a world where kids are exposed to a lot of not great things. I think that people that worry about whether this is too intense at the end of the film, it's just that, I have 3 kids myself, and you want to protect your children, and you want to protect them from intense experiences and strong feelings. And I think that it's almost more intense for adults to watch that than for kids. I think for kids, it's exciting and it's intense, but I don't think kids experience it the way we do as adults. And the other thing is that life is about intense experiences, and we all go through a lot of intense things. And I think it would be a mistake on our part to kind of hold back. We had to be true to it, and any less would have watered down the story.